Alps in 4K. Most breathtaking mountain villages on Earth. Scenic relaxation film. There is a valley in Switzerland so deep that sunlight only reaches the floor for a few hours each day. 72 waterfalls cascade down walls that rise nearly 1 kilometer straight up on both sides. People have lived there for over 3,000 years, not despite the extremes, but because of them. We're visiting 4 villages across 3 alpine countries where the mountains are only half the story. What these people built and why they stayed is what we're here to see. The valley we're walking into now is one of the deepest in the entire alpine chain. The walls rise so steeply on either side that the valley sees direct sunlight for only a short window each day. It's a true cleft, rarely more than 1 kilometer wide from wall to wall, and the sheer rock faces climb for hundreds of meters before they give way to sky. At the bottom sits Lauterbrunnen. The name comes from Old German words meaning loud springs, and once you hear the water, you understand why. 72 waterfalls pour down the cliffs on either side. The most famous is Staubach Falls, a waterfall that drops nearly 300 meters from an overhanging rock face and turns to mist long before it touches the ground. People have lived here since the late Bronze Age, which means ages of someone waking up to those same cliffs every morning. They settled here because the valley offered shelter, water, and a route through the mountains that larger armies couldn't easily follow. The peaks that surround it, the Eiger, the Monch, and the Jungfrau, stand guard like they've done since before anyone kept records. Today, the village draws visitors from all over the world, but the locals still farm the narrow strips of flat land and herd cattle up the slopes in summer. The waterfalls that look so dramatic from below accompanied the daily commute for generations of families who called this valley home. If you can build a life in a place this narrow and this steep, you're ready for what comes next. The next village sits thousands of meters higher, grows colder with every meter you climb, and rests directly under one of the most feared mountains in the Alps. The village of Zermatt sits at the foot of the Matterhorn, and the mountain dominates every view. It's nearly 4,500 meters high, and its sharp pyramid shape cuts into the sky so cleanly that it looks almost artificial. But this peak is real, and climbers only reach the top after conquering most other major alpine summits. In 1865, British mountaineer Edward Whymper reached the summit, and his ascent turned Zermatt from a quiet farming community into a destination that people talked about across Europe. Before that, the village existed for centuries, with almost no outside attention. The locals grew what they could in the short summer season, herded livestock, and waited out the winter snows in stone houses built to survive the wait. The first train reached Zermatt on July 18, 1891, and that single rail line changed everything for locals and visitors alike. Visitors could arrive without the weeks of travel that horseback or foot required. By 1930, workers electrified the entire line, and the Glacier Express directly connected the village to St. Moritz through some of the highest and most dramatic mountain passes in Europe. Around the same time, Zermatt banned combustion engines, and today the village is still car-free. Electric taxis and horse-drawn carriages move people through streets that haven't changed much in 100 years, but the biggest change is one you can't see. The silence is what strikes you first. Without cars, you hear the horses' hooves on cobblestone, the distant clang of cow bells from the high meadows, and the wind moving through narrow lanes that feel untouched by modern life. It's the kind of quiet that most of Europe lost generations ago. The Matterhorn didn't ask to be famous. It simply stood there while humans decided to climb it, photograph it, and build a town in its shadow. The village exists because of the mountain, not the other way around. And that relationship between the people below and the rock above is something you'll see again when we cross the border into Italy and enter a different country under the same giant. If you keep moving south from Zermatt, you cross into Italy and arrive at Courmayeur. It sits in the Aosta Valley beneath Mont Blanc, or Monte Bianco as the Italians call it. At 4,808 meters, Mont Blanc is the highest mountain in all the Alps. 3 towns surround it: Courmayeur in Italy, and Chamonix and Saint-Gervais-les-Bains in France. Courmayeur became a destination when mountaineering first became popular in the 1800s. Travelers came for Mont Blanc, and the Italian side took a different approach than the French route. Long before the climbers arrived, this was a farming and trading post where locals sold goods to travelers crossing the pass. But the mountain gave it a new purpose. Across the border in France, Chamonix carries an even older claim. In 1786, Jacques Balmat and Michel Gabriel Paccard completed the first recorded ascent of Mont Blanc from the French side. That achievement put Chamonix on the map for adventurers across Europe. Then, in 1924, the town hosted the first Winter Olympics, which turned it into a global destination for winter sports. What you notice about all 3 villages is that they treat the mountain differently. Switzerland built precision, Italy brought warmth and food culture, and France added sporting history and cosmopolitan energy. But all 3 exist for the same reason. They sit at the base of a rock that doesn't care about borders, languages, or tourism seasons. The mountain just stands there, and the villages keep building their lives around it. By now, you've seen 4 villages, but the pattern is larger than any single place. The Alps stretch across 8 countries and hold about 100 peaks higher than 4,000 meters. The mountains don't leave much room for alternatives, so for thousands of years, the people living in these valleys have done the same things. They farm the flat strips of land where soil collects. When the snow melts, they move livestock up to summer meadows, then bring them back down before winter closes the passes. They turn milk into cheese, preserve whatever the short season allows, and repair stone buildings that have stood against wind, heavy snow, and freezing temperatures for centuries. Many of these villages restrict cars or ban them completely. The streets stay narrow, the air stays clean, and the noise stays low. It's not just for the tourists. It's because the people who live there remember what the villages were like before the cars arrived, and they don't want to lose that. These communities aren't museums. They're working places where real families get up every morning and deal with the same steep slopes and harsh winters that their grandparents faced decades ago. Visitors come for the scenery, but the persistence gives the villages their meaning. People looked at vertical rock, thin soil, and months of heavy snow, and they built homes anyway, using local stone, thick wood, and generations of hard-won determination. Conclusion: the Alps will outlast every village beneath them, but the villages will outlast every tourist who passes through with a camera, a checklist, and a return plane ticket home. People built these places because they saw a home where others only saw rock. Subscribe for more journeys to the world's quietest places. There's always another valley waiting, and we'll find it together.